In 2020, something happened that we never thought would. We, as free American citizens, were told that we could not leave our houses, we could not go to school or work, we should not go to the store unless absolutely necessary, we shouldn't even go to the doctor unless it was an emergency. Doctors would not administer chemo to cancer patients, they wouldn't perform surgeries, people who were sick were left to die alone and scared. Even the gift of life was turned into a horror show, leaving many expectant mothers to opt for at-home births and stay far away from hospitals. Next came the masks and the arrests of mothers who took their kids to the park, for lack of a better term. It was a shit show for quite some time. One aspect of this that many never seem to look into or talk about is the fact that domestic violence victims got no reprieve from their abusers. The one who used to go to work for 10 hours a day was now working from home, there 24/7, never leaving and always around to find something wrong. It wasn't only domestic violence situations, but kids with behavioral and mental health issues were also home all the time. They weren't allowed to receive their services and help them make progress. They were stuck at home all day and all night for months. And it's not only kids suffering from mental health ailments, because that's not required to just get tired of never being able to leave your house and being stuck at home all the time with no breaks from your family. Many people were scared and they became shut-ins. They never left for work, for school, for groceries. They had everything delivered, telehealth appointments, etc. So it's no surprise that divorce rates went up, relapses occurred, mental health declined greatly, kids could not stand being home all the time, they were going stir crazy, homeschooled, and everything was closed down. So you could imagine that in certain situations, kids may run away. In September of 2020, Tristan Sexton would do just that. After being trapped in the house with his younger siblings and foster guardian for 6 months straight, at the age of 16, he couldn't take it anymore and ran away. 1 month later, his 14-year-old sister Taylor Summers followed suit and fled the home of Connie Smith in Emmett, Idaho. Connie was Taylor's biological grandmother who took in Tristan Taylor and their younger sibling, Taryn. Given that Tristan and Taylor had run away the previous year, in April of 2021, when Taryn was reported missing, it was thought by some that she had run away also. Regardless of the other two runaways, they treated this like a missing persons case and searched Connie's property far and wide for the 8-year-old little girl. Upon searching Connie's home, they noticed a portion of the carpet was missing in Taryn's room, and there was a brown spot on the wall that appeared to be dried blood. Connie explained this away by telling police that Taryn ran away after being sent to her room as punishment because she defecated and spread it on the carpet, which is why it was missing, and she had cut that part of the carpet out with the poop on it and burned it. As a parent, this seems very odd to me that you would not just buy cleaners before your first initial thought is to cut up your carpet and burn it. My kids have special needs, and if we burned our carpet every time that it got crap on it, my whole entire house would have been torched a million times over. So this just sounds like a really bad excuse for the missing carpet that I'm pretty sure no one would believe. And it seems that the police didn't believe her either and told Connie they were going to search the car in her driveway that she had initially told them she couldn't find the keys to, yet she was seen driving it on the last day that Taryn was seen. With the other factors, they had no longer needed Connie's cooperation and made entry to the car, where it was immediately noticed there was a black trash bag on the floor in the back seat. The officer who opened the car and saw the bag got this gut-wrenching feeling in his stomach that Taryn was in that bag, and unfortunately he was right. Connie was arrested for murder, and the dead body of the 8-year-old little girl was sent for autopsy, where a cause of death could not be determined. Taryn was extremely malnourished and classified as failure to thrive. She had blunt force trauma to the head, she had pneumonia, and was covered in vomit, but no feces was found on her at all. Big shocker, Connie lied. All of these things combined contributed to her death, so nothing could be pinpointed as the official cause of her death, which took Connie's murder charge off the table. They still found various charges to file against her, and 8 months later, Connie was sentenced to 20 years in prison for failure to seek medical attention for Taryn. But she can be released on parole as soon as 2026. So she only has to serve 5 years of that 20-year sentence. Hopefully, considering her charges are against a child, she'll never get out. After Taryn's body was found, they started to question the legitimacy of her older siblings running away. Tristan and Taylor were eventually contacted by authorities and found to have actually run away, as said. They could no longer stand staying with Connie in Emmett, Idaho, and went to other family members who lived in Idaho. Unfortunately, Taryn's older sister Taylor died in a tragic swimming accident only a few months after Taryn's death. According to witnesses, Taylor had gone underwater while swimming near Pillar Falls in Twin Falls, Idaho, and never resurfaced. Search and rescue efforts were made, and her body was found using a drone 4 days after she had initially gone under. Taryn's brother, Tristan, spoke at Connie's sentencing, saying, "All you had to do was love us and take care of us. What was so wrong with us that you mistreated us and abused us? That I'll never understand." It's obvious Connie was abusive to all 3 of the kids, and when the other siblings left, Taryn became the focus of her abuse. It's unclear as a foster parent how many children were in Connie's care. The last day Taryn was seen, she was in the car her body was found in, where she was seen by a preschool teacher, and it was said that Connie, quote, told the other kids to be quiet when they got in because Taryn was sleeping. This leads me to believe she had other young children in her care aside from Taryn and her siblings. I did find in an article that it said her other children, meaning Connie's other children in her care, said that she was a hard parent. So she could have just been babysitting. I'm not sure. But either way, it's probably best that she never has contact with children in any capacity ever again. So here's where things get really terrible. Taryn's uncle, David Summers, works in the mental health field, and he's a mandatory reporter. We all are. Judging by text messages provided from him to his mother, he absolutely knew that these kids were being abused. And not only is he a mandatory reporter through his work, he's their uncle. These are some of the texts that were read during the trial. David Summers had texted Connie while he was watching Taryn to ask if he could give her Pepto-Bismol because she wasn't feeling well, and Connie responded, "No, I'm on my way." Other text messages read, "What you're doing isn't helping. Mom, she's getting worse." Summers texted Smith back 45 minutes after this, saying, "I know you feel like she's just being a shit, but either you got to do things drastically different, it has to change if it's not too late. Anyone other than you, I'd be making a call, Mom." David Summers continued, "Like, she's in a condition that if someone else saw her and called, I'd be fucked too. And it's not good for you either. What you are all doing is killing both of you." After reading these, he definitely knew he was messing up by not reporting his mom, and it's almost as if he knew that Taryn was dying, making the comment, quote, "If it's not too late," she must have been in pretty bad shape, and to think that he still didn't do anything to help her. So I'm assuming he cut a deal against his mom to not get in trouble, because I see it as him being just as responsible for her death by not saying anything. Now, David was also a community-based service provider and actually worked with kids during this time. An inside source says that he was actually seeing clients and transporting them in his car while his niece was decomposing in a trash bag in the back seat. It was also mentioned that his behavior at work was odd after his niece was reported missing. He even tried to have a supervisor fight the FBI to not let them take his computer into evidence because it had client information on it, and he was told to hand it over regardless, but obviously he had something to hide on there. He was eventually fired from that job, but not because of his involvement or suspected involvement, but because clients kept calling in saying they didn't want to work with a murderer, and new clients to the company would also say not to assign them to him for the same reason. So the company finally let him go. The scary thing is, because he was not convicted of anything, he's still said to be working in the mental health field as a community-based provider. I can only hope he is no longer able to work with or be near children in any way, ever. During Connie's trial, she made statements that she's not the monster that she was made out to be, but she'll regret her actions for the rest of her life. She said, quote, "I am truly sorry for any actions or lack of actions on my part that resulted in the loss of my granddaughter." Bottom line, she is a monster. She abused all three of them. They felt unloved and escaped one by one. Unfortunately, Taryn could only get away from Connie in death. She was little and likely scared and weak and couldn't get away even if she wanted to. No one stood up for her and became her voice when she had none, which also contributed to her death. Teachers saw her looking sick in the back of the car. Her uncle, not to mention all three of them, had been taken away from their mother and placed in Connie's care as a foster care situation. When all of this happened, Taryn was technically in the custody of the state. After having her two older siblings run away from the same foster home, why were they not checking in more often? Why did they not conduct visits and see that Taryn was malnourished, failure to thrive, or that she had pneumonia? These aren't things that just happen. It takes time. So there had to be zero contact with Child Protective Services, who are supposed to be doing regular home visits, and they were doing none, and they were not making any kind of contact. It had to be for a significant amount of time. Now, given that they were taken away from their mother, it was not any of these reasons that the children were removed from their mother's care. Their mother had an addiction and was seeking help, and they were placed in a foster care situation while that was being taken care of. But CPS has said in the past, quote, "We make efforts at all costs to keep children in their homes. We will not remove them, but make sure they have the tools to be able to stay where they are placed." This means that once they're placed in a foster care type situation, they literally have to die to be removed from their care or run away. And that's what happens sometimes. At all costs is a child's life, and that's what happened in this case. So where does their responsibility come in? This could have been avoided in so many ways. People today in the world we live in are more likely to stand around and film your death for likes and views to become internet famous rather than calling for help. And that's exactly what happened in this case. A bunch of people who could have intervened at any time did nothing and sat around and watched this little girl die. Taryn's symptoms and conditions could have been turned around if she was able to receive help, but nobody helped her. They just sat around and watched her wither away. And that's going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed hearing the story as much as I enjoyed telling it. If you haven't already and you did enjoy the story, like, love, and make sure to check out the previous stories I have posted. Also, if you enjoyed this story or any others I have, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a future installment. Feel free to share with anyone who enjoys less than well-known dark reality stories, and leave a comment or let me know if there are any stories that you would personally like me to research and cover. Have a great weekend.